Professor Fred Ogola, who's been our guest here a number of times, is a management and strategy expert and a professor at Strathmore University, is also now a leader of Operation Linda Gatuzzi. And he's here with us in the studio. He's here alongside a constitutional and tax law expert, Bernard Odero. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Eric.
Karibuni sana to the Situation Room.
Thank you very much.
Prof, yes. Fish no do it, raincoat. What do you translate? What's your understanding, interpretation of this proverb?
You know, when you talk about fish, for us Luos, we don't listen to anything else. We are just waiting for ugali. Yes. So that's the only thing I get.
You just had the
why
fish.
Is the ugali? Because I hear about fish, I didn't hear about ugali. So that's what I can make out of this proverb. Whether it's in water, I don't mind. Where is the ugali? Yes.
Tunakula na nini?
Yes. It's the Luo version of when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade.
Yes.
You fish, you make ugali.
Yes.
Raincoat or not? What are those details?
Yeah.
Hey, Bernard.
Yes, sir.
Would you say the same thing? I mean, wachana na prof. When you hear this proverb, what's your interpretation of it?
There is a coincidence with Prof. We happen to come from the same area. And when you come from the same area and the elders have spoken,
Bas.
as the young ones keep quiet.
Bas. Fish, no the wheat, raincoat, ugali.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, gentlemen, you're here because you are going to court this morning. Yes.
Yeah.
And you're going to ask the courts to declare the Hustler Fund, according to the president, the highly successful Hustler Fund so far, to be declared illegal.
Yes.
Let's start first of all by understanding this Operation Linda Gatuzzi. What is it, Prof?
So Operation Linda Gatuzzi was born out of when I was working in this called Bunge Wananchi. We created what is called a summit in all counties. So with these counties, they're asking me, you teach about governance. Our constitution do not have governance mechanism. It has a legal framework, but there's no governance mechanism. That's why, Eric, someone can walk in your house and pick 7.5 billion shillings and walk out while you know it, and when the law is against it, there is no mechanism to put that person to book. And if I'm lying, the cases being withdrawn of late says that it is not easy to put anyone in a book. Remember, the people making the laws are the very people having challenge. Let me give you an example. If you go to a county like Tharaka Nithi, the governor, the senator, the MCAs, minority leader, majority leader, women rep are UDA. You tell me how you can check anybody there. Well, they have their UDA caucus, then they go to parliament or pass legislation. Who is checking who? It's like watching your party. You go to, for example, many counties whereby the senator is ODM. The governor is ODM. Women rep is ODM. Now, when an ODM's governor has stolen money
of MCAs.
Yes, even Nairobi, look at here. My little MCAs are ODM. Now, majority, leader of majority is ODM. Leader of minority is UDA. And minority is the one who should be chairing committees like PIC, PAC. How does opposition government check government while opposition is helping government? So I'm saying that the constitution never thought of the legal the governance mechanism on how to handle this matter. Now look here. Mandaga was a senator, a governor. Now he's a senator. Reports about the financial misappropriation of Uasin Gishu will be brought before him with his friends to look at. What's going to happen? Do you expect something? That's why Linda Gatuzzi is saying something. Look at when the election. Eric, we're with you at Bomas. I was the epicenter of analyzing the election. There's a time when you reach Bomas in the morning and you have a feeling that direction is coming from the head of state, that is State House. So you see security behaving in a certain way, looking Azimio-ish. Mid-morning, it is looking UDA-ish because there's a president who is sitting supporting Azimio, and there's a deputy president also inside government who is in another part. So we saw that division. That's why this Linda Gatuzzi proposes that once you are deputy president, you have to wait for a cool period of 5 years before you can run for president, so that we don't have that. We don't have whereby you are saying, I'm in government, I'm in opposition. So we want deputy president to serve the president.
Okay.
So that's one proposal. So I'm
We will
saying,
go into those
out of
details.
all this,
what is Linda Gatuzzi? Is it is it
Linda-
a party? Is it a coalition? Is it
or the
a
entity.
trust? Yes.
Linda Gatuzzi belongs to the people of Kenya because they say they want to guard their constitution and devolution. So at the moment, it is just what Kenyans are associating with. Just like you can say, Sisi ni wa Kristo. So it's just something that Kenyans are associating because they are feeling that it is something belong to them. So I don't own it. I'm the leader because I'm just trying to champion, because somebody must pay some bills, isn't it? Somebody must be the one paying the bills and maybe calling meetings. But so far, it belongs to the people. And actually, it is Bunge la Wananchi and the county summits that are now trying to organize what is the structure of this Linda Gatuzzi. I'm sure that in December, we're going to have a meeting around 12th and 11th, around 20th of December, to start looking at what kind of entity do we, but now it's just the wish of the people to call it that way.
call it
Operation
Linda
Linda
Gatuzzi.
Gatuzzi, which actually for them means Katiba. Yes.
Okay. You're going to court this morning. So
Yes.
we know that at the end of November, the president launched the Hustler Fund.
Yes.
One
Okay.
of 4 products
Yeah.
of the Hustler Fund. And if we just heard it even in the news now, even the president talking about how much has already been disbursed from the Hustler Fund, over 3 billion shillings disbursed from the Hustler Fund, or more than 1 million people who've applied and registered for the Hustler Fund, hundreds of thousands of shillings that have been saved in this Hustler Fund, another figure of what has already been repaid. But you want to go to court and say, this thing in its entirety is illegal. I want to come to you, Akili.
Yes.
What is the issue with the Hustler Fund?
Okay. I'll start with the last part
Okay.
of whatever establishes the Hustler Fund. Because they say when you want to hide a lot of things from Kenyans, put them in books. And that is where the detail is.
Yeah.
This is what it says at the end. In the event of winding up of the fund, the cash balances shall be transferred to the exchequer, while the assets of the fund shall be transferred to the National Treasury.
This is in the Financial Inclusion Hustler Fund regulations.
Actually, it's not
or the
called Hustler
PFM
Fund.
Act.
Hustler Fund is just a popular name for it. It's called Financial Inclusion Fund.
Yes.
It's pursuant to Section 24, subsection 4 of the
Public Finance
Public
Management.
Finance Management Act. So now the hustlers in quotes, because if you look at it differently, considering the appointments that have been made in the recent past, and you make your judgment from the proverb that
City has given us.
Hustlers put the cabinet that has been chosen. Those are the real hustlers. They are hustling from the Kenyans' pockets, if you ask me. Hustlers are not the ones that are going to take the 500 shillings, the 300 bob, and then the 50,000. 50,000 barely makes rent for so many people that qualify to be called hustlers in another sense. So now, the government or the president pushed for the launching or the regulations to be put out.
Yeah.
The same regulations give the rules that are supposed to be followed.
Yes.
Those particular rules state clearly when this fund should be meted out to the public.
Okay.
Those particular rules have not been followed.
Tell us those rules.
The rules require creation of a board.
Okay.
One, that is the most fundamental one. Creation of a board that will formulate a policy that will regulate the issuance of the funds,
Okay.
accountability,
Okay.
the issue of allocation by parliament. Those are the structures that should have been made first available by the president.
So pause there.
Yes.
So the Financial Inclusion Fund regulations
Yes.
were taken to Parliament.
Yes.
They were passed by Parliament.
Yes.
and their subsidiary legislation to the PFM Act.
Yes.
They say that this fund shall be managed by a board.
Yes.
What's the composition of the board?
Board.
Yes.
Okay. If you look at regulation number 10,
Yes.
regulation number 10 provides, just a second, that the cabinet secretary shall appoint a board constituted of several members, but I want to just point to you just 3.
Yes.
Yeah. A non-executive chairperson, a principal secretary, and that's a principal secretary of the State Department. Those 3 are supposed to be giving an advisory opinion to the cabinet secretary on behalf of the so-called Hustler Fund to ensure proper regulation of the same, to ensure that whatever money is gotten from the treasury is properly accounted for. You understand?
Yes.
So now, moving forward, the president has already disbursed 50 billion. 50 billion is not mere cash. 50 billion could feed the people that we are saying are hungry, that we have formulated a pay bill recently to enable Kenyans to maybe changia for them to eat. Okay. But now 50 billion here is being given as an mshwari tender. You've realized anytime they talk of Hustler Fund, they are concurrently talking about Fuliza.
Yes.
These are competing entities. One is an entity, one is the government that protects, that controls the other entity. You understand? And it's sort of another banking institution per se under the Banking Act.
Wakili, back to that issue.
Yes.
Because you started by saying that there's no board.
There is no board.
Yes.
So the regulations are passed in Parliament.
Yes.
Regulation 10 is established a board to be known as the Advisory Board, which
Yes.
shall consist of an non-executive chairperson appointed by the President.
Yes.
The PS in charge of the National Treasury.
Yes.
The PS in the State Department responsible for MSMEs.
Yes.
The PS is the State Department for responsible for matters relating to trade. So PS in Moses Kuria's office.
Yes.
The Attorney General.
Yes.
2 other persons not being public officers.
Yes.
Who shall be appointed by the CS for MSMEs.
Yes.
And the last one is the administrator of the fund, who shall be the secretary of the board and an ex-officio member.
Yes.
This is the composition of the board.
Yes.
Yes.
So the president has not appointed a chairperson.
Yes.
The PSs are in office.
Yes.
There's no CEO who's been appointed by the board.
Yes.
And the other 2 people who are non-official and not public officers have not been appointed by the CS.
Yes.
So what you're basically saying is that there's no board.
There is
No, there's no board that I know. They have never sat, not even being appointed.
Or gazetted.
Sitting and even telling a SIPO direction. Remember that even the secretariat, who is the CEO? Let's just talk about Youth Fund. Youth Fund has a board.
Yes.
It has a CEO.
Gazetted.
It has a secretariat. It has an office. Where is the office of Hustler Fund? Is in the CSS office. So if you lose money, where do you go? There's a lot of things there that actually ask so many questions that then you know what's happening. All the information we are getting about how the fund is working is coming from the president. How would an entity which is lending money be told by the politicians? For example, you see somebody coming with a testimony. I saw someone with a tie as expensive as mine, isn't it? Because my tie is at least 1,200, isn't it?
Shillings or dollars?
Shillings,
Okay.
1,200. And they're saying they borrowed 900. I'm not even talking about his suit and shoes. They borrowed 900 to invest in chicken business. Do you believe those people?
One chicken.
If your suit is around, let's say around 120,000, how do you borrow 900 shillings to start a business of chicken? Are these things realistic? So I'm trying to say, because there's no secretariat, there's no governance mechanism, there's no accountability, anyone will say anything about it because Farouk Kibet can tweet it, Itumbi can tweet it, Moses Kuria can say anything, the president can say anything. Who is speaking on behalf? Because there is no entity that is involved. Now look at the other thing. Which account is your money seated when you save money? Which bank account? You have no bank account, so you are saving where on air?
Actually, the regulations.
Which bank?
What does the regulation say?
The regulations state that the administrator of the fund shall be responsible in opening for the purposes of opening a bank account.
Okay.
So there is no bank account that has been opened unless any of you have seen accounts that have been opened.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know the people who have opened bank accounts.
But you're told the money has been saved. You've just said here they've been saved where?
There is no bank account that has been opened. And again,
Are you saying that money can only be saved in a bank account?
No, but the regulation, Banking Act.
but you see, the government acts as per the law. The government
Or
is
we
different
hope
from
that-
me and
yes.
you,
Yeah.
who can save under the mattress. Because the government is holding your money
In trust.
in trust. And before the government spends even a penny, there must be a system of accountability.
Okay, so we did hear that looking at the fund yesterday, we did hear President Ruto say yesterday that 250 million shillings has been saved.
Yes.
Okay, where that is being saved, okay,
It's in the
the
cloud.
government cloud.
No, but Ndu, okay, go on before I ask the question. Because where does the government save its money? Who holds the government's money?
So
The central bank.
the central bank.
Precisely.
So,
So-
it's possible that this 250 million that has been saved so far is sitting in the central bank.
Who says it is not possible?
It's okay. Well,
It's also impossible.
it's also impossible.
It's also impossible.
As we look at these
Yes.
details that are coming out,
Yes.
the question fundamentally here is the spirit of this fund. Is that what this particular case has an issue with? Or is it the many logistics around getting it running? The operational issues, the operational activities are what are coming together and making illegalities.
Let me tell you
What are we looking at as an
There's
issue
first
here?
of all an operational risk. Operational risk here could mean that you promise what you can deliver. For example, at SpiceFM, if you promise people news every 1 hour, isn't it? And you have no mechanism to deliver that news under 1 hour, there will be failure. And risk of the money which belongs to the people will be lost.
Okay.
Another reason here is governance risk. There is no governance in place and money is moving. So even if you want to set up a bank, do you know it's a requirement that you must have board of directors? If you set up a unit trust fund, there must be board of trustees. I own one. It's called Wanafunzi Unit Trust Fund. I have board members there. And before even I'm allowed, even for 1 shilling to move, I must
CMA.
disclose and CMA must ensure, even me, I go through fit and proper. That am I allowed as a governance expert to run that fund? Does my CV qualify me? Do the board members qualify? Does CMA have all the registration to clarify that they should be able to run a fund? Why is the government doing what they would not allow us to do? You as Ndu, can you now set up a fund and start people saving money? Even this fintech they are talking about, they are not even having what is called deposit-taking requirement. Even microfinances, you must be a deposit-taking microfinance to take deposit because savings cannot be saved if there's no deposit. So where are you depositing? Talk about the issue of central bank. Does central bank have individual accounts whereby Fred Ogola has an account with the central bank to deposit my money and save?
No, the central bank is the country's, the government's banker.
Yes,
But
not
though-
individual.
No, not
Yes.
individual.
But
So-
I'd like that question to be answered, please.
What is
though-
the
Is there a
issue?
problem with the spirit of the fund, the
Yes.
idea, or are we looking at the operational logistics then that are forming illegalities?
There is. Okay, if you look at the spirit of Chapter 12 of the Constitution on public finance, yeah, and anything to do with public money, whether it is being received or being spent, there is a laid down procedure for the same. Okay, the Hustler Fund in itself, as a populist idea, it is a good idea. But look at it even at the operational level or the aims that it aims to achieve. Give someone 500 shillings. Maybe it might make some rain somewhere.
Yes.
But again, after you've done the business and you've earned something, you still have to come pay the government some income
Yes.
which is in the form of tax. Part of whatever you're going to earn will be paid as tax. So now, if you consider, I am also a tax student with Kesra.
Yeah.
The issue of taxes. This is tax that you've given to the government to put for a particular use, guided by a budget. The government works in budgets. It does not engage itself in issues of, what do we call it, when you spend without having planned for that expenditure.
It's called a Ponzi scheme.
Pyramid schemes.
Pyramid, no, but there is.
Just unplanned spending, right?
An unplanned spending. But even the law provides for situations where you can make an unplanned spending with contingency
yes.
fees. Okay. Contingency amounts that are set at 10 billion. But now this is 50 billion being released to the public. Look at it this way. The inflation aspect of it. Give Kenyans 50 billion, 500. I'm assuring you that Kenyans won't pay that amount. And if they will pay, or they won't pay, if the money goes back to the cloud account, it won't be accounted for. And the most relevant thing that is going to happen is the last part of that regulation, where they will say it has collapsed. Whatever has remained, we don't know where it goes. The Constitution creates a system for accountability. That is the anchor of our current Constitution.
And just to add a little bit there, do you know the Cabinet Secretary, again, under the same regulation, has got a right to collapse a fund?
Yes.
And if your money is there with no one to go to, will they not collapse it? And now when they say we are putting you money to save, some Kenyans may save their own money. You understand? What if that money collapses your own money? The other issues here also why the idea may be good. Let me put this blatantly clear. The hustler movement, the bottoms-up movement was supposed to help His Excellency the President get to State House. But once you get to State House, now run the economy. Let us not run on what was happening in the campaign. That's why we are seeing Raila is back in the campaign, because it looks like the state is still in a campaign mode. Let's now go and say, sober up, we won the election. Mr. President, we want you to succeed, because that's why we are here. That's why we are not even allowing you to start making wrong steps. We don't want to say after 10 years that we were watching as you are going down. No, that's why we are here for you, to go to court and tell you, think about it. And for me, Eric, the most bitter thing, Kenyans don't lack governance experts. Kenyans have very intelligent, highly qualified people. Why have not they been used to help us get this right? What is the hurry? You know, it's a shame when another country is watching what Kenya is doing. Just Rwanda is watching. Tanzania is watching. And Kenyans have helped Tanzania develop their financial services market. How are we screwing up what we could actually get right because we have the expertise? So that's my main concern. We know what needs to be done.
We know what can be done, but we're not doing it.
We're not doing it. And
we're in a hurry to go and start implementing. Let's take a break. It's 28 minutes to 8. We are talking about the Hustler Fund. The two gentlemen in the studio this morning will be going to court after they leave the studio because they want the court to declare the Hustler Fund illegal. We are asking them, why exactly is it illegal and how? And the two gentlemen have Professor Fred Ogola, who is the leader of Operation Linda Gatuzzi. He's a governance and strategy expert and a lecturer at the Strathmore University. Bernard Odero is a constitutional and tax law expert. He's Wakili. He's here with us in the studio. Time for that break.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
In the room this morning is Professor Fred Ogola and Wakili Bernard Odero. We're talking about the Hustler Fund. From here, they are going to court, or they're threatening to go to court. They're pledging they'll go to court. No, these are Kenyans. Until they get there, anything could happen. They're going to court to challenge the Hustler Fund. Wakili, you told us one of the things that you have an issue with is, number one, the PFM Act regulations that were passed in Parliament to establish the Hustler Fund, the Financial Inclusion Fund, say that it shall be governed by a board. There is no board in place. The board shall comprise a chairperson appointed by the President, the PS for the National Treasury, PS for MSMEs, PS for Trade, the Attorney General, 2 people appointed by the CS for MSMEs, and 1 CEO. The regulations also say out of these 8 members, quorum is a simple majority. If I let's look at the membership, they already have a simple majority. They have 3 PSs and the Attorney General. Someone could argue, well, it's there. Must it be gazetted
Yes.
as a board
Yes.
for it to be in office?
Yes. The government communicates through gazette notices. The government does not communicate through a microphone. It must be gazetted. Any action of the government must be gazetted. And my view, if the Hustler Fund were to succeed as per the wishes of the president, it was mainly to expand the tax base of the people that were going to help bring more taxes, and that's why it's given to the people directly, per se. But look at it this way. Do the people that take the fund using their mobile phones get into the formal tax-paying system? Compare the Hustler Fund with the other funds that were given before or that have existed before. You needed to have something that is registered, that the government can actually track, that you took funds from us, you started a business, you've been paying the loan back. There must be something that you're making. Then, what is your tax declaration? That way, it would have succeeded. But now, who is there to ask you that question that you took money from us? There is no administrator.
Okay. No board, no secretariat.
Nobody is to ask you. And you can also not ask anyone about your money that you've saved. The thing that the Hustler Fund also tries to bring is the issue of the pension. It says part of the money that you've borrowed,
70% of
70% will go to pension.
Yeah.
The question then I'll ask you, if today you go to NSSF, the National Social Security Fund, and ask them whether your money is there, they won't tell you. Go to the Retirement Benefit Authority and ask them whether your money is there. You don't have any formal contract with them. Any saving institution that you can point out today and go and tell them, I saved my money with you, so I require the money back because now I need to use it. You understand? So there are certain particular things that could only be formulated if the board was there. And the regulations provide that the board will be selected through a publicly well-contested appointment. Okay. So now, you're saying there are already 3 simple majority. Who
4.
appointed? 4. Who appointed?
The Attorney General and the 3 PSs.
Who appointed? Is it by default? Because if you would say that, then
According to the law, it's by default. The person who's the PS for MSMEs, the person who's the PS for the National Treasury, the person who's the PS for Trade, and the person who's the Attorney General.
But this regulation putting a process for appointment was not doing it in a limbo. It wasn't doing it just for the sake.
It was for a specific thing.
It was for a specific thing. It is a guidance to it. It tells you that these people might be there, but again, just use this procedure to put them
In office.
in office.
So the office
So that
bearers.
they will also take oath. You understand?
So are you saying that the office bearers or the prerequisite ministries or the departments of state have not taken the oath that is required, meaning they haven't gone through the process that are required for them to be part of this process?
Yes.
And
Yes.
if we were to,
There is a process to
in one of the questions we're asking, can we even get minutes of even their first sitting or meeting? Does it exist?
Why are the minutes important?
Just to know they sat, because these things are clear. What policies have they made? Let me just try to say here, Eric, the way the structure of the government works, as a governance expert, the president does what we call executive order, and that has been done to declare Hustler Fund, isn't it? Then there should be ministerial policy being done by the cabinet secretary, for example, for treasury, to come with a way on how to execute the executive order from the president. That has been done, isn't it? Then there's what we call departmental execution framework, which will be from the State Department. That's from the PS. I don't think I've seen any. Then from there we go to agency. Now there'll be an agency, because there's agency that work. If I give example outside this has a fund because it's complicated, let's go to Miso Road. The president says we're going to construct 20,000 kilometers of tarmac road this year, executive order. Then Ministry of Transport will come with a policy on how it will be done, where it will be done, who will do it, all that. Then State Department of, for example, let's say roads, will now come out with a framework on how to do it. Then the agency can be Kenha, if it is, for example, highway. It could be Kera. It could be Kura. Do you see this same structure in Hustler Fund? It doesn't exist. So I'm saying it's against how the government works. The question is, His Excellency, the President, has been Deputy President for 10 years. Does he not know? He knows very well because he has a PhD. He's a well-educated guy. Can't we benefit from our first PhD president? Because we've never had a PhD president. If Raila was to be president, we could only be having someone at best undergraduate, isn't it? There'll be no master holder, no PhD holder. We have a PhD holder in office. And he's a brilliant man, active man, very energetic man. Let's benefit from
Good
this
man.
moment. Yes. So I'm saying if that is lacking, go to another thing about data. You're
Okay.
being asked to give your PIN. Data policy is violated there. The fintech,
How is it violated?
you know,
Do they not have the authority to ask me for my PIN?
no, I mean, there must be a way on which you should give it. You know, the way if you give...
There must be a framework within
There
which...
must be a framework within which you give. The way they are doing it is not the right one, because this one can be used to defraud you of other sources of funds. You know, people are only looking at the Hustler Fund. What if I send to my son 20,000 shillings in his M-Pesa and somebody has access to the PIN? That is what I'm looking at. That is the danger I'm seeing. The other thing is goes against the Public Procurement and Disposal Act.
How so?
When you get all these things, like let's say the fintech which is working, was it competitive bid? If you talk about the financial institutions like KCB and other banks,
Hold it. Are you saying that the law requires that if you're going to have a vehicle, a special purpose vehicle in this case, that there must be competitive bidding?
yes, there should be. That is Public Procurement and Disposal Act. It is there. Even there's an oversight authority around it. So this is a public thing. You know, City, we are not looking at Hustler Fund now. We are looking at building Kenya. And why I am going to quote is that we are creating a precedence. If we allow this to happen, what will you say next time when somebody comes? Because I'll tell you, Ruto did it. Why are you stopping me? So we want to stop this now so that the president can have time to relook at it and think through it and then do it right. We want him to get it right. But this is not the way to get it right.
So apart from the governance issues, what else is an issue with this Hustler Fund?
Another thing is excluding some people. There's an interest to be paid. Muslims will not be allowed. It's an exclusion. And
It's
Kenya must be inclusive.
Yeah. Explain that.
Because the interest is being paid 8% to the Hustler Fund, isn't it? Muslims don't believe in it.
Per se, let me elaborate it. The Islamic law does not allow Muslims or people who profess that faith to take loans and pay interest.
It's considered haram.
It's
Yes.
considered haram.
Yes.
So in some extent, it excludes. Yeah, and then it also brings in the issue of class. And actually, the regulations have defined whom these things are supposed to meet. The target population. It talks of a base. Okay, so it's supposed to meet the person down there.
How is that an illegality?
I'm talking about discrimination per se.
But then again, how is it discrimination? Because if something is specific, when you say discrimination, you're implying that there's something nefarious, something wrong with it.
No. Discrimination can be positive. It can also be negative.
Okay.
Where is the
Okay.
discrimination really?
Discrimination is choosing on basis of certain parameters. Like in this instance, they have chosen on basis of the person they consider who's suffering. Okay.
How have they defined them in law? This person.
Can I read?
Yes,
I read
please,
it to you?
please.
Can I read it to you? What the borrower
Yep.
eligible persons means disposable. I'll just read it to you. The aims of the fund. Person it aims to.
Eligibility.
No. Eligibility is on the qualification.
Okay.
Yeah, there is the purpose of
The target.
the target person.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, it's on the definition of the persons.
Object and purpose of the fund from clause 7.
Gotten it?
Yeah. The object and purpose of the fund is to innovate, develop, and deploy bottom of the pyramid financial services and products that are affordable, accessible, and appropriate for the unserved and underserved persons, including credit, savings, insurance, or investment products, without prejudice to the generality of what we've just read there. Paragraph 1, the objects of the fund shall be to promote financial inclusion through expanding access to credit by persons, proprietors, micro, small, and medium enterprises, chamas, table banking groups, SACCO societies, association, startups for economic growth and job creation.
Let me take you directly on the definition of the bottom of the pyramid. Yeah.
Okay.
It talks of the person who's there at the bottom of the pyramid, and that person is considered the person who's not able to access funds down there to the level of 500 plus. But I want to ask you today, if you were to start a business using 500 shillings and if you were to start a business using 5 million shillings, which was what the other funds basically aimed at achieving, which one is going to be more helpful to the society? It's a question I wouldn't want an answer
fact,
for.
Eric,
But
if we go there, we are talking about the operational thing, and Du had told me, why don't we just ignore the operational things and see whether there are illegalities?
Illegalities.
Because it is very clear. If we go there, you'll cry. We have
very many arguments
we
about
have very
it.
many arguments, and that one we leave to everybody.
I'm not sure that's what you're taking to court.
No, that one we are
no.
not.
What
We
you
are
are
taking
What
to
are you
court
taking to court?
illegalities.
what we are
What are
taking
those?
to court, what I think we are taking to court is this. There is a framework for it.
Okay.
It's a very good fund that if properly structured
Yes.
and the laws that formulate it followed, it can be helpful.
Okay.
However, if it is just haphazardly managed, because Kenya we are not depleted in terms of resources. What we lack as Kenyans is administration and proper leadership. So if the person at the top, to look at the Kibaki era, Kibaki did not take the money to the people. Kibaki took the money to the banks, financial institutions, and made the banks give them out at favorable rates. So now the government is out here giving loans at 8%. Somebody else has started a microfinance competing with the same government, but now this other person has to make more profit, but the government has given people the better option of 8%. It calls it the lowest ever in the history of the country. Define it using the Banking Act. You'll find the government is actually doing what an emerging bank down there is trying to do and build an economy. So if it is followed per the author of the script, if the author of the script could follow it to the last dot in the paper, then that way we can be able to account. The issue is accountability.
So what would we seek a court to do in this matter? Seek a court to say that this whole thing as it is currently is illegal? Or are we saying tweak it a little bit and then get it running properly and then bring us back to a place whereby you have a fund which is run in the proper way with all then the activities, operational activities around government, around the several acts that then institute things like this running properly? Or are we saying get rid of the whole kit and caboodle together out?
No. We are not saying get rid of the whole kit. We are just saying let the court bring some sense on the issue of accountability, openness, transparency, rule of law, which is the guiding principle for any office. The office of the president is also guided by that same constitution that guides any other office in the land. So if it, and that's why they were passing the regulations. They wanted to meet the legal hurdle that might have come their way. But now they've passed the regulations. They're not following the same regulations that they have passed.
So we are seeking compliance, and if there's anybody who needs to do that, His Excellency President William Ruto. He became president when it was unprecedented, meaning that his boss never wanted him to be one, or at least showed he didn't. And then he ascended to power against all odds. And he ascended to power because of the rule of law. So let us comply with it, and I'm sure that he knows that. So compliance here are just get this. That's why I'm seeking court order to stop the process until there's clear compliance. Once there's clear compliance, let's go. In fact, I'm telling Kenyans for now, maybe this is a bit populism than legal now, that take this money, isn't it? You have no obligation to pay until after this course is hard and determined, because for now, the way it's operating is like a contingency fund, which is meant to help you alleviate your economic challenges. People are suffering out there. I don't want to sit here and become unreasonable by saying, don't take the money. Take the money, but you don't have to, you have no legal obligation to pay, because the person giving you money have not met the legal standards required even to require you to comply. So they can't say they have not complied and they want you to comply.
But then,
we are seeking
Prof,
compliance.
then you'd be, someone would argue, you're basically saying, let's commit an illegality to stop on another illegality.
No, but I'm saying if you at the moment,
because the second
money has
question
been
would
given
be,
out.
If there's nobody to ask you to repay, then you're also basically saying there's nobody to give you the money.
No, but if the government is clever, they should stop it, because it's very clear. What I'm trying to say here is this thing is illegal. And there are very many bases. In fact, as I told you, you discover every day when you're, oh, my God, that's also a violation. The violations are many. I'm sure that somebody can even come to be enjoined in this case and also bring other illegalities. They are endless. The only thing we'll say, once you have found enough illegalities, why do you need to look for more? Why don't we be given time now? Like him, Wakili, who is challenging the case, why don't the government, after this, call him and tell him, okay, it's good, because I don't want to also be whiners here. Yeah. We need to have solutions-oriented people. Wakili can go there and tell them to be able to meet these legalities which are there. Let's take this route, let's take that route, because we are here to help the government succeed, but also protect this money. Eric, statistics has it that 5% of startup businesses, only 5% succeed. 95% fail. This hustler fund, between 500 shillings and 50,000, falls in that category. With 95% failure, you can tell me whether you're going to have 100%, let's say, repayment back. All you are hearing about those things, who is giving this report when there's no board, there's no secretariat? How can Safaricom tweet and say, our profitability is this way, and there's no board that sat to approve the audited accounts? Who has audited these numbers you're talking about? It is irresponsible. There is no transparency. There is no compliance. There are a lot of things which are hidden there. Now look here. You are a pensioner without knowing where your pension is. Where will you go after that? You have been told to enter with no exit clause. You enter in a hole and you're being told, now just walk inside there. You are a hustler, just be inside there. How can I exit from it? Isn't it? So there are many things which are wanting here. And that's what I'm trying to say.
That's the one question which has been there in the public domain.
Yes.
This is with regards to how much money has been disbursed to the hustler fund and with whose authority.
That's the same question that we are asking the court. Okay. And we are telling the court to now actually tell the control of budget to tell us how much was budgeted for this particular fund and how was it removed, because Parliament has not sat down to allocate a particular amount of money to the fund. Again, if Parliament has not sat down, then what is the source of the money? Understand? What is the source of the money? I believe the president wants the country to succeed. I believe the reason why this money was being disbursed directly to the citizen was to increase or broaden the tax base. It can only be done so if things are formalized. You know, the reason why Kenya we have a tax deficit is because the people in the formal institutions or formalized kind of income earning activities are few as compared to the ones in the informal sector. And I think the Hustler Fund was meant to correct that aspect so that we have so many people paying taxes. It will reduce the burden for the few who've been paying all over the time. So, and if you listen to one of the interviews, the question was, how come we have 15 million Kenyans who've registered with Safaricom, but then we have only 6 million paying tax? Where does the balance go? And now that's why they have introduced the taking of the loan using your phones. But look at Safaricom. Anyone that wants to compete with Safaricom or Equity must put their structures right. Safaricom M-Pesa Fuliza Fund is structured. You can actually say Safaricom has my money, though it's not Safaricom that puts the money with it. There must be a face.
Bank, yeah.
Yes, there must be a face. The Hustler Fund only has faces that are familiar to the political realm.
It's the president himself.
Yes.
Let's go to the news. In the next hour, we want to open the phone lines so we can hear people. People will tell us. There are people who will tell us, yes, they've accessed the money. They have no issues with all these things. There are others who will ask the questions that you're asking. There are others who may have answers to the questions that you're asking before you go to court. It will be good to sit around for a while and hear what Kenyans think, so that you know whether you have the people behind you, or whether you'll walk out of that court and people will tell you, you're busybodies.
Yeah.
Wakili Bernard Odero is a constitutional and tax law expert, and Professor Fred Ogola is the leader of Operation Linda Gatuzzi. He is a governance and strategy expert. They are going to court to challenge the Hustler Fund.